After 7 years with Jack, he said he was tired of me and turned to a younger, more delicate girl. This time, I didn't make a scene. I threw away the ring and cut up the wedding dress I had just bought. That night, I boarded a flight out of the capital. His friends started placing bets on how long it would take before I came crawling back. Jack smirked coldly. She'll be begging me to take her back in less than 3 days. But 3 days passed. Then another 3, and I remained completely silent. Jack couldn't sit still anymore. For the first time, he called me, Carolina. Enough with the tantrum. Come back. But on the other end of the line, a man chuckled. Jack, you should know better. If you wait too long to coax a woman, someone else might steal her away. Jack's eyes turned bloodshot. His teeth clenched. Put Carolina on the phone. Cameron leaned down and pressed a soft kiss to my lips. She can't answer right now. She's still unconscious. I need to kiss her awake first. Chapter 1. 7 years with Jack. I had secretly bought a wedding dress, mustered all my courage, and was ready to propose to him. But unfortunately, I arrived a few minutes late to the party that night, just in time to overhear his conversation with his friends. Oh, Carolina? Jack lit a cigarette and exhaled lazily. I got bored of her ages ago. 7 years? You'd be tired too. The others laughed along. True, 7 years, no matter how stunning she is. She'd get old. But Carolina is really beautiful, and her body is perfect. Remember Jack's birthday? She wore that stunning backless dress. Every guy there couldn't take their eyes off her. Seriously, Jack, you used to treasure her so much. Are you really willing to let her go? Jack's voice was indifferent. When have I ever lied? Then, if I go after Carolina, you wouldn't mind? Jack blew a smoke ring and replied carelessly. Go ahead, as long as you're okay with it. Damn. Have some self-respect. You're really gonna pick up someone Jack got tired of? Another burst of laughter. That night, I didn't step into the private room. I found an excuse, said I had a headache, and left early. Jack didn't even ask a single question before hanging up the phone. That was the night I made up my mind to leave him. Just a couple of days later, rumors spread like wildfire. Jack was chasing after a sophomore from the Performing Arts Academy, a young, innocent girl. And when Jack pursued someone, he did it in a grand way, just like when he had pursued me, making it clear to the world, lavishing her with houses, cars, jewelry, anything she could wish for. The girl, having never seen such extravagance, fell for him in no time. At a gathering with friends, Jack brought her along. As soon as they stepped in, the room fell silent. A few girls who were close to me looked at me with concern. I smiled. Why is everyone so quiet? Why are you all looking at me? Jack pulled the girl close before finally looking at me directly. Carolina, this is a good opportunity. Let's lay everything out in the open. Go ahead. These years of breaking up and getting back together, it's exhausting. The feelings are gone. I clenched my hands tightly, the ring on my finger digging painfully into my skin. But somehow, I felt nothing. Anna is young and innocent. I truly like her, and I don't want to wrong her. Jack brushed his fingers through the girl's hair. I need to give her a proper title. I nodded slightly. I understand. From now on, we're just friends. If you ever need anything in the capital, I'll still take care of it. No need. I chuckled and stood up. If we're breaking up, let's make it clean. Wouldn't want the girl to misunderstand. Jack raised an eyebrow slightly in surprise. After a moment, he replied, Fair enough. Well, you all enjoy. I'll head out first. Do you want my driver to take you? No need. I'll take a cab. As I walked out of the room and shut the door behind me, I overheard someone ask, So, how long do you think Carolina will last this time? 2 days? She actually seems mad this time. I'll bet a week. Jack glanced at the door that wasn't fully closed, smirking coldly. 3 days. She'll come back crying. It's always the same. I'm honestly getting tired of watching this play out. Yeah, Carolina can't live without you. Everyone knows she's obsessed with you. I let out a bitter laugh at myself, gripping my handbag tightly as I walked quickly toward the elevator. Chapter 2. Back at my apartment, I went to the corner of my walk-in closet and took down the wedding dress. I had waited 6 months for it to be custom-made, but unfortunately, I would never get the chance to wear it, since it couldn't be returned. I grabbed a pair of scissors and cut it up. After all, leaving it here would only be an eyesore for Jack. Before leaving for good, I took off my ring and placed it on the coffee table. I didn't take much with me, aside from personal belongings. I left everything else behind. After some thought, I left Jack a note. This apartment and everything in it is yours to deal with. No need to ask me. I booked a red-eye flight to Harbor City. My best friend had gotten married and moved there earlier this year. It was the perfect excuse to visit and clear my head. She invited me out for shopping and afternoon tea. That evening, there was a small gathering, old classmates and friends. By the third round of drinks, someone pushed open the door. Several of my female classmates perked up instantly. Cameron? Now, that's a rare guest. Yeah, handsome. What brings you here tonight? Cameron walked in casually, his deep voice smooth. I was handling some business next door. Heard some old friends were gathering, so I thought I'd drop by. As he spoke, his gaze lingered on me for a brief second before moving away. My friend gave my hand a discreet squeeze. Caro, I think Cameron's here for you. I turned my drunken gaze toward him. He was taller than Jack, dressed in a black overcoat with a matching business suit underneath. Sharp features, a strong frame, and absurdly long legs. I squinted at him for a moment before shaking my head. No way, we haven't been in touch for years. But my friend ignored me completely and turned to Cameron with a grin. Cameron, could I trouble you to give Caro a ride later? We've all been drinking, and I wouldn't feel safe letting her take a cab. I froze and looked up at Cameron. His gaze met mine, steady and unreadable. After about 2 seconds, he nodded. All right, thanks, big guy. My friend beamed and leaned in to whisper. Caro, 7 years with only one man? That's a terrible deal. Jack got to fool around all he wanted. Why shouldn't you start fresh? And let's be real, Cameron's a godsend. If you don't sleep with him, it's a waste. I scoffed. How do you know he even wants to sleep with me? Babe, the way he looks at you could strip you naked. Trust me, I've dated 18 guys. I know. Cameron drove me back to my hotel. As we pulled up, I unfastened my seatbelt and turned to him. Thanks for the ride. He glanced at me. No need to be polite. I opened the car door to leave but hesitated, remembering what Jack had said that day. Before I knew it, I blurted out, "Want to come up for some tea?" Cameron kissed me the moment we stepped into the elevator. I was already tipsy, and his kiss was deep, possessive, nearly suffocating. There are cameras, I panted. My cheeks flushed. My legs felt weak, and I clung tightly to his waist for support. Cameron glanced at the surveillance camera, then shifted his position and kissed me again, unfazed. As I swiped my key card to unlock the room, he suddenly stopped me. Carolina, if you regret this now, I can still stop. I tilted my face up to him, hooking my finger around his tie and pulling him closer. You've already kissed me until my lips are swollen, and now you want to stop. Cameron chuckled. He traced his thumb lightly over my slightly swollen lips. Then even if you regret this later, it'll be too late. We didn't even make it to the bedroom for our first time. My back rubbed raw against the wall, and I whimpered, biting down on his shoulder. Cameron, you're an animal. Ever heard of being gentle? His searing palm supported my back as he thrust into me fiercely. Then he panted against my neck, voice hoarse. Carolina, I don't think I can hold back anymore. Chapter 3. 5 minutes later, I finally understood what Cameron meant. He carried me to the bedroom, and I buried my face in the pillow, laughing uncontrollably. Cameron, how long has it been since you last touched a woman? Cameron shot me a look, his face unreadable. A long time. I've been busy with work these past years. I stared at him in surprise, my laughter gradually fading. Then, out of nowhere, tears welled up in my eyes. I'm sorry, Cameron. I choked on my words. I dirted you. Carolina, what are you even saying? Maybe it was because I was crying, but Cameron suddenly looked flustered. He clumsily wiped my tears, but they wouldn't stop. I shouldn't have dragged you into this, but you already have. Cameron leaned down, cupping my face in his hands. His gaze was unwavering, and his voice held a rare, serious weight. Carolina, now that you've started this, you have to see it through. On the 7th day in Hong Kong, my friend Mary from Beijing suddenly messaged me. Caro, when are you coming back? I don't have any plans to return for now. Everyone misses you. Hudson's birthday is coming up in a few days. Come back and join us. I'll pass. Just help me send him a gift. All right then. Just take care of yourself. Inside a private room back in Beijing, Mary handed her phone to Jack. Jack, why don't you call Caro? She'll listen to you. Jack stared coldly at the screen for a few seconds before abruptly putting out his cigarette and standing up. I don't give a damn if she comes back or not. For all I care, she can drop dead out there. Jack, don't be mad. She's probably just upset. Yeah. She even took off her ring this time. She's really hurt. You pushed things too far with that girl. Jack suddenly snapped. We're already done. What the hell else does she want? He glared at everyone in the room, his voice sharp. Listen up. No one, no one, is allowed to contact her again, even if she dies. Don't fucking call her. All right. We won't. Just calm down. You were just hospitalized for a bleeding ulcer the other day. You know. The only time you never had stomach issues was when Caro was around. She's been gone for just a few days. And look at what you've done to yourself. With every word. Jack's face darkened. By the end, he simply grabbed his jacket and slammed the door on his way out. Outside, the cold wind hit him head-on, but the rage in his chest refused to subside. That woman really had some guts. 7 days, and she hadn't sent a single message or made a single call. Was she playing serious this time? His expression turned grim as he pulled out his phone and added Carolina's number to his blacklist. You better not come crying back to me, because this time, I won't give in to you like before. Cameron called just as I typed the final line of my article and hit format. I had started writing magazine columns back in college, and after some success, I decided to go full-time after graduation. It paid well enough, and since my work was remote, I could take my laptop anywhere in the world. That was why, after the breakup, I had no reason to stay in Beijing, drowning in heartbreak. Caro, what do you feel like eating tonight? Cameron's voice was steady, and just like that, the exhaustion from the afternoon melted away. I've probably killed off millions of brain cells today. Too tired. You decide. How about hot pot? I know a place that serves an incredible brain dish. You'll love it. I used to love ordering pig brain whenever I had hot pot. But later, Jack said it looked disgusting, so I rarely touched it again. I vaguely remembered that Cameron always had a light diet. Cameron, you don't have to go out of your way for me. I'm not a picky eater anymore. I suddenly feel like eating it too. Remember that little stall in our college cafeteria? The brain dish was always so tender and fresh. Hearing him bring up those memories made me nostalgic. That stall's food really was amazing. I ate there for 4 years and never got tired of it. All right then, let's do hot pot. I'll come pick you up. MHM. Cameron took me to a well-known hot pot place in Hong Kong. The restaurant was old, small, but packed with customers. And yet, Cameron, dressed in his sharp suit and coat, stood out like a sore thumb in the casual, bustling atmosphere. I watched as he carefully wiped down my chair with a napkin, then expertly rinsed the utensils with hot water before pouring me a glass of juice. For a rich heir like him, these small acts of care didn't seem the least bit unnatural. Cameron, your ex-girlfriend really trained you well. I couldn't help but comment. Unlike me, 7 years of breaking up and getting back together. The only time I had felt truly cherished was when Jack first pursued me. After college, when we moved in together, I had become nothing more than a caretaker. Jack had a weak stomach, so I learned to cook and make soups. I lived like a housewife, taking care of his every need. But now, I finally understood. I had loved him so much that I lost myself. I had forgotten that before you can love someone else, you have to love yourself first. How could I have expected his love to last forever? Cameron glanced up at me as he cooked the food in the pot. Where did you hear that I had an ex-girlfriend? Chapter 4. I froze. Back in college, wasn't there always a girl around you? I thought you two were childhood friends. You mean Lisa? Cameron chuckled. We did grow up together, but I never dated her. I never liked her that way, at most. I saw her as a little sister. Then, have you ever been in a relationship? Cameron slowly rolled up the sleeves of his shirt. I went on a few arranged dates, gave it a try, but if it didn't work out, I ended it quickly. Oh, and after that? I lowered my gaze, recalling his reaction that night. Thinking about his inexperience, his words suddenly seemed much more believable. Carolina, next time. I won't. His sudden statement caught me off guard. Won't what? Cameron turned his face slightly and cleared his throat. Maybe it was the heat from the boiling hot pot, but the tips of his ears were turning red. You'll find out later. Then he scooped up the cooked brain dish and placed it in my bowl. Eat. It wasn't until later, after he carried me out of the bathroom, that I finally understood what he meant. By then, I felt like I was falling apart. Strands of my hair were damp with sweat, my fingertips trembling from exhaustion. And yet, Cameron showed no signs of stopping. Cameron! I glared at him, but with the mist in my eyes. I hardly looked threatening, if anything. I looked even more enticing. Even my voice, when I called his name, carried an unintentional softness, as if I was being coquettish. Cameron leaned down and kissed me gently. Caro, do you feel good? I refused to answer, shaking my head, but he didn't get angry. Instead, his pace slowed, turning from an overwhelming storm into a lingering torment. It was unbearable. I was so overwhelmed that tears welled up in my eyes, slipping from the corners. Cameron. My fingers traced over his back, my voice already trembling with helpless sobs. Caro. His voice was hoarse, eyes dark and burning with restraint. His muscles were taut, beads of sweat rolling down his forehead. That sensation, the one where you're about to soar to the clouds but never quite reach. It was maddening. I whimpered. Yes, it feels good. His large, scalding hands gripped my waist tightly, moving with a relentless intensity. My voice broke into scattered, incoherent syllables, and just before I lost all sense of reality, Cameron whispered into my ear, Caro, if it feels good, then never leave me, okay? On the night of Hudson's birthday, the gift I had picked out in Hong Kong had already been delivered through a friend. Jack sat on the sofa, cigarette between his fingers. The bottle of liquor in front of him was already more than half empty. It was a pair of antique cufflinks from a high-end brand, something Cameron had helped me pick out. Hudson, forcing a smile, turned the box in his hands carefully, sneaking glances at Jack's expression. These cufflinks are really exquisite. But before he could put them away, Jack suddenly spoke. Give it to me. Hudson hesitated for a moment but didn't dare refuse, quickly handing over the box. Jack stared at the cufflinks. The brand's logo was discreet, almost unnoticeable, yet he fixated on it for a long while. Finally, he closed the box and pushed it aside. Take it. Hudson let out a breath of relief and reached for it. But in the next second, Jack grabbed the empty bottle on the table and smashed it against the glass surface. Shards flew in every direction, and a long, deep gash immediately formed across the back of his hand. The room erupted into chaos. Jack, what the hell? Why are you so angry all of a sudden? That's a serious wound. Your hand is bleeding nonstop. You need to get to a hospital. Jack remained still, his face dark and terrifyingly cold. His voice was low, almost hoarse. Carolina has never bought from this brand before. Hudson forced a laugh. So what? Maybe she just picked it at random. It's not like it was your birthday, when it was. She spent half a year planning your gift. Exactly. Jack, no one's closer to Caro than you. We all know how much she cared about you. Jack let out a sharp, mocking laugh. Cared about me? The once lively room grew eerily silent. Hudson hesitated before speaking again. Jack, should I call Caro? Or at least get your hand treated first? Before Jack could react, Hudson suddenly snapped a picture of Jack's injured hand and, with a bold move, sent it straight to Carolina's WeChat. Jack didn't stop him, maybe because Hudson was too fast, or maybe because, deep down, he didn't actually want to stop him. Chapter 5. The private room suddenly fell silent. About 10 seconds later, Hudson's phone rang. See? I told you. Caro still cares about you. Jack, look. It's her calling. Hudson was grinning from ear to ear, and everyone else noticed that the hostility on Jack's face seemed to ease just a little. Jack, do you want to answer it? Hudson held out the phone, but Jack turned his face away without even looking. Hudson didn't mind. I'll take it. I'll take it. He put the call on speaker. The moment Carolina's voice came through, Jack's jaw visibly tensed. Hudson, what happened? Did you get hurt? Oh, no, not me. It's Jack's hand, Carolina. You wouldn't believe how bad it is. He's bleeding like crazy, and it won't stop. Hudson rambled on for a while, but there was no response from the other end. Caro, are you listening? Maybe you should come back. Jack refuses to go to the hospital. He's just sitting here, bleeding. Finally, Carolina spoke, her voice calm and sweet as always. Hudson, yeah, I'm here. Caro, say whatever you need. Hudson winked at Jack as he spoke. From now on, don't tell me anything about him. Hudson's smile instantly froze. Caro? And happy birthday. Hudson, wait, Caro. Don't hang up, Caro. But the call had already ended. Hudson sat there in a daze, holding his phone like it was a hot potato. At that moment, he wished he could slap himself unconscious. Why did he have to interfere? Why did he stick his nose where it didn't belong? The room remained eerily silent. Jack looked around at everyone, his expression unreadable. Then, suddenly, he laughed. What? Cat got your tongues? No one dared to speak. Jack's laughter turned sharper. What? No one has anything to say now? Jack, calm down. You're bleeding even more. Jack, you know Caro's temper better than anyone. From the corner of the room, Abigail, who had been silent until now, finally spoke. Actually, I've wanted to say this for a long time. The way you treated her was too cruel. She's a woman. Jack, women have their pride. Even if you stopped loving her, you should have ended things cleanly. Jack sneered coldly. Who said I wanted to end things cleanly? His voice was laced with sarcasm, dark and biting. She was with me for 7 years. Even if she were just a damn dog, she'd be used to me by now. Abigail let out a small, almost imperceptible laugh. And have you ever thought about this? How many 7 years does a woman have? What if Carolina never comes back? Jack's expression stiffened for just a second, almost unnoticeable, except for the slight tremor in his voice. Impossible. Abigail tilted her head slightly. What in this world is truly impossible? When a heart is broken beyond repair, do you know how hard it is to bring warmth back into it? Jack, don't do something you'll regret forever. After that, she picked up her purse and walked out without another word. Not far from her, Joel sat with an unreadable expression. His wife of 2 years. Was she defending Carolina out of friendship? Or was she projecting her own grievances, blaming him for how he had treated her? Rongshin, aren't you going to walk your wife out? Joel smirked, lighting a cigarette. Who's my wife? My wife is filming a drama right now. She won't be out of the set until next month. You're unbelievable. A friend shook his head in exasperation. Joel didn't respond. Abigail and Carolina weren't the same. Carolina had no burdens, no messy family, no sick relatives depending on her. If she left Jack, she'd just have to downgrade her lifestyle a bit. But Abigail had a family that was a bottomless pit. A bedridden brother who needed constant care. She couldn't afford to leave Joel, even if she wanted to. She didn't have the guts. The moment I hung up the phone, Cameron wrapped his arms around me from behind. He rested his chin against my neck, nuzzling me lightly, but said nothing. I couldn't help but laugh. What's wrong? Caro, will you go back? Go back where? Beijing. I don't plan to, at least not for now. But who knows about the future? It's not like I did anything shameful. Why wouldn't I go back? My home is still there. Cameron fell silent again. That's when I realized his real question wasn't about Beijing. You're asking if I'll get back with Jack, aren't you? Will you? If I say never, will you believe me? Cameron lowered his gaze, his sharp nose brushing against my cheek. I want to believe you. Cameron, I have my pride too. He paused. Do you still have feelings for him? I thought about it seriously. If I said I didn't feel anything at all, that wouldn't be true. It's been years. After all, Cameron suddenly nipped at my shoulder. Don't say it, Caro. Let me finish. But it's not attachment. It's not regret. Either. I ran my fingers along his jawline. Leaving him didn't hurt as much as I thought it would. So maybe I stopped loving him a long time ago. Maybe from the moment he started treating this relationship half-heartedly. I had already prepared myself for the end. Cameron's voice was firm. I won't be like that. I won't be half-hearted. I won't be unfaithful. I won't make you cry or hurt you. His arms tightened around me, and before I could say anything else, he kissed me again. Caro, be with me. Chapter 6. But I didn't return his kiss. In the end, I gently pushed him away. Cameron, I'm sorry. His gaze darkened. Why are you apologizing? I avoided his eyes. It's my own problem. I don't want to be in a relationship anymore. His hands tightened around my shoulders. His voice trembled. Then what were these past few days? Carolina, what am I to you? I clenched my fists tightly and took a deep breath. Just think of it as fulfilling a need. If you're willing, we can continue this arrangement. But if you meet someone you truly like, you can walk away anytime. Cameron's eyes burned. What arrangement? A convenient way to satisfy each other? You can think of it that way. I refused to meet his gaze, afraid that if I did, I wouldn't be able to hold back my tears. Cameron, I'm really sorry. If this makes you uncomfortable, I'll leave Hong Kong immediately. I swear I won't ever bother you again. Carolina. His eyes were bloodshot as he slowly let go of me and took a step back. He let out a quiet laugh, so soft it almost sounded broken. Carolina, you can't do this to me. Cameron. He turned, grabbed his coat, and walked toward the door. I instinctively took a step forward, but then I stopped. At the doorway, his hand hovered over the handle for a moment before he suddenly turned back to look at me. He even forced a small, comforting smile. Sorry, I just need some time alone. I nodded. Okay, I won't disturb you. Carolina, give me some time. Wait for my answer. And then he left. I collapsed onto the couch, completely drained. There was an indescribable ache in my chest. But at the same time, I knew one thing with complete clarity. I couldn't do it. I couldn't throw myself into love again. I was terrified. Terrified that it would end in disappointment. Terrified of watching someone's gaze shift from passion to indifference, then to resentment. I didn't want to make the same mistake twice. I shouldn't have gotten involved with Cameron. If I had known from the beginning that he had feelings for me, that night, I never would have let him take me back to my hotel. It was already 3 a.m. Cameron parked his car outside Carolina's hotel but didn't go in. Instead, he leaned against the vehicle and lit a cigarette. Countless windows were illuminated above him, but he couldn't tell which one was hers. But he knew she was there. He knew she was in the same city as him, and if he just walked inside, in 10 minutes, he could see her again. That thought alone should have made him feel content. It had only taken him 2 days to process everything and put his thoughts in order. He had convinced himself. Carolina had just ended a long relationship. It was completely normal that she didn't want to jump into another one. She had lost faith in love, in men, in the idea of marriage. It made perfect sense. Maybe he had been too impatient, too eager. If maintaining a casual relationship made her feel at ease, if it was what she needed, then he didn't mind not having a title. After all, what could be more painful than loving someone you couldn't have? If there was something worse, it would have been 1.5 years ago, the moment he found out that Carolina had moved in with Jack. That was when he truly decided to give up. He had forced himself to move on, going on blind dates, meeting new people, trying to let go. But the moment he realized it wasn't possible, he had ended every attempt without hesitation. No matter how much his family pushed him, he never entertained the thought again. If Carolina had never broken up with Jack and come to Hong Kong, if she had never asked him to come upstairs that night, then perhaps he really would have spent the rest of his life alone. Cameron stubbed out his cigarette. His expression gradually steadied into something firm and resolute. But Carolina had come to Hong Kong. She had opened the door for him that night. If the woman he loved was right in front of him, and he still let her slip away. Then he, Cameron, didn't deserve happiness to begin with. Chapter 7. The night before I was set to leave Hong Kong, I went out drinking with a friend. So, how are things going with Cameron? She scanned me from head to toe and clicked her tongue. Tisk. TSK. TSK. Just look at you, your face is glowing. Your skin is practically dewy. Cameron must be taking really good care of you. I swirled my drink, my expression calm. I think I should stop wasting his time. I don't want to be in a relationship, and I don't want to get married. Caro, why are you punishing yourself for someone else's mistakes? She leaned forward, eyes sharp, and more importantly, why are you punishing Cameron for something Jack did? I'm not holding it against him. I just haven't moved past everything yet. No, Caro, you're not just stuck in the past. You've been emotionally conditioned by that bastard Jack for 7 years. He made you believe you don't deserve real love and happiness. I stilled. Was that true? Had I been so scarred by the cycle of uncertainty, breakups, and reconciliations that I became paranoid? So insecure that I doubted everyone and everything? So convinced that I would never receive a love that was genuine and unwavering? But why? Why shouldn't I have that? If the ones who take love for granted deserve to suffer, then the ones who love wholeheartedly deserve to have the door open for them again. My friend wrapped an arm around me and swayed gently. Baby, do you even realize how amazing you are? You're gorgeous. You're smart. You were making money in college, taking care of yourself, and me, too. Sometimes you're beautiful, capable, kind. If I were a man, I'd marry you in a heartbeat. Caro, you deserve to be loved. You deserve the best kind of love, not to waste your time and youth on someone like Jack. Trust me, he will regret it. He will never forgive himself for losing you. She grabbed my phone off the table and shoved it into my hands. Now, call Cameron. I hesitated. And cancel your damn plane ticket. Don't think I don't know you're trying to run again. I stared at her, my eyes stinging. But, Yuan, what if Cameron and I end up like that too? She held my gaze firmly. You won't. Why? Because I believe that a man with self-control and integrity, one who has waited patiently for the person he loves, would never be stupid enough to lose her once he has her. She arched a brow. Do you think he's like that pig Jack? I shook my head. Of course not. Then call him. Baby, you have no idea how happy it'll make him. I knew Cameron would be happy, but I never expected a man in his late 20s. A man who had taken over his family's business and was a CEO with incredible achievements, to react like a boy, utterly overjoyed. When he picked up my call, my friend grinned. Caro, are you happy? I hesitated, then nodded. I think I am. She smirked. See? You're happy. Cameron's happy. That's all that matters. Then she laughed. And you know what makes me even happier? Imagining just how miserable Jack is going to be. I chuckled. Maybe not. He probably already has a new girl by his side. Yuan sighed dramatically. Caro, let's make a deal. Let's never talk about him again. I nodded, smiling. All right, let's not talk about him anymore. For the first time, I said those words without a second thought. Like he was just another stranger. Like we no longer had any connection at all. By the time Cameron's car arrived downstairs, I had just stepped out of the bar. He was waiting for me in the night breeze. Arms open, I stopped, looking at him. Damn, he really was good looking. Everything about him checked every box of my preferences. Men could love countless women at the same time. They could move on before a breakup even happened. Even having someone lined up before ending things wasn't the worst thing. So why would it be wrong for me to start a new relationship after a breakup? I walked toward him, and he took long strides toward me, in the middle of the bustling street, without a care for the people around us. We kissed. His heart was racing. I touched the back of his neck. It was burning hot. Cameron, do you have a fever? He pressed his forehead against mine, breath shaky. His voice was low and husky. Carolina, I don't know what's wrong with me, but every time I touch you, this happens. I chuckled and pressed a small kiss to his jaw. Maybe you just need to touch me more often? Cameron's ears turned even redder. He cupped my face, his gaze filled with heat. Carolina, what am I to you now? I teased. What do you think? A fling, or a boyfriend? Chapter 8. He asked the question but didn't wait for my answer. Instead, he buried his face against my neck and murmured softly, "Forget it. Don't answer. I don't want to know right now." I wrapped my arms around his waist, pressing even closer to him. "Are you sure you don't want to know?" Boyfriend. Jack's car was parked at the entrance of an old alleyway. He got out and walked deeper inside. There, in a small courtyard, lived an old tailor. His ancestors had been master weavers in Jiangnan. Now, in his later years, the man no longer took orders, but Jack always had ways to convince people. The wedding dress Carolina had cut apart had been sent here half a month ago. Today, it was almost fully restored. As he walked, Hudson's words from a few days ago replayed in his mind. Every girl dreams of wearing a wedding dress to marry the person she loves. Jack had been with Carolina for 7 years. Yet, he had never once thought about proposing. He hadn't even considered that she might have wanted to propose to him. He had done a lot of unforgivable things recently. But those women, none of them had meant anything to him. Even Anna, the girl who had caused Carolina to leave, had only been a novelty for 3 days. The moment he got to know her, he found her unbearably dull. His mind still drifted back to Carolina. 7 years together, yes. He had grown tired. He had gotten bored. But some people are like the air you breathe. You only realize how essential they are when they're gone. Since Carolina left, nothing felt right, even when out with friends. His mind was full of her, especially when he drank too much. If Carolina were there, she would have pretended to be mad and tried to stop him. If she couldn't stop him, she would have stayed up to make him soup, letting him rest his head in her lap while she massaged his temples. Her hands were always soft. She would mumble little complaints, scolding him while taking care of him. At the time, it had annoyed him, but now, he missed it so much it made his chest ache. Jack made a decision. When Carolina came back, he would propose. He knew, deep down, how much she had wanted to marry him. If he gave her marriage, she would forgive him, wouldn't she? The old tailor's craftsmanship was remarkable. The dress had been restored almost perfectly. Jack paid and left. Just as he stepped outside, his phone rang. For some reason, an uneasy feeling crept up his spine. It wasn't until he saw Hudson's name on the screen that his heartbeat began to slow. "Jack, bro, I've been thinking. I should probably tell you something." "What?" "Just, don't get mad, all right? It might be a rumor. Nothing confirmed yet." "Hudson, just say it." Jack's voice hardened. "Did Carolina come back to Beijing?" There was silence. Then, "Jack, bro." Hudson hesitated. He wasn't sure how to say it, because out of everyone Carolina could be involved with, why did it have to be Cameron? Jack's longtime rival, especially after what happened 2 years ago, when their companies had fought over a major project. Jack's firm had lost. Cameron had won. It was the first time Jack had ever tasted defeat, and their already strained relationship had become outright hostile. Hudson let out a breath. "Promise you won't get mad. We don't know for sure yet. Just say it." "Someone saw Caro in Hong Kong." Jack's grip on his phone tightened. His voice remained eerily calm. "And? She might be with Cameron." "Of course. It could be nothing. Maybe they were just having dinner." "I got it. Jack, if there's nothing else, I'm hanging up." Jack ended the call. He stood there for a moment, gripping the large paper bag that held Carolina's restored wedding dress. Step by step, he walked through the cold Beijing winter. By the time he reached his car, he stopped. Slowly, a faint, almost mocking smile appeared on his lips. And in the next second, without hesitation, he tossed the paper bag into the trash. Chapter 9. In the second month after Carolina left, Jack had sent her a WeChat message. It was successfully delivered but never received a reply. The message read, "I'm planning to sell the apartment. What do you want me to do with your clothes?" Maybe he had forgotten that Carolina had left him a note, telling him he could handle everything however he pleased. Or maybe, he was just looking for an excuse to text her. Perhaps. In his mind, this was him offering Carolina an easy way back. If she was smart, she would take the hint. Jack had a temper. Sure, but in reality, he wasn't that hard to appease. Carolina never responded. The apartment was never sold. Her clothes and all of her belongings remained untouched, as if she had never left. Jack often returned to the apartment late at night after business dinners. He would lie on Carolina's bed, staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep until dawn. On the third month since she left, at yet another late hour, the clock's hands inching toward midnight, Jack called Carolina's number. She had always been a quiet, well-behaved girl. Her family was ordinary but comfortable, and she had been deeply loved by her parents. But because she had been beautiful from a young age, her family had been strict with her. It wasn't until the autumn after she graduated from college that she moved in with him. He still remembered that night. She had been so nervous that she trembled in his arms. Her skin had burned under his touch, flushed a deep red. She had looked heartbreakingly beautiful, fragile, as if she might shatter. When it was over, she had cried, clinging to him, whispering over and over, "Jack, you're not allowed to bully me. You can't ever bully me. You have to be good to me. You have to marry me. Jack, we'll always be together, won't we?" But that naive, hopeful girl, the one who had believed so earnestly that she would spend forever with the man she loved, had been lost to him for a long time now. So long that he couldn't even remember. What had her face looked like the last time they broke up? Had she smiled? Had her eyes turned red? Had she cried? The phone rang for a long time. Just as he was about to give up, the call connected. For a fleeting second, he thought of saying, "Caro, come back." But what actually left his mouth was, "Carolina, enough already. Just come back." His pathetic, ridiculous words were interrupted by a man's quiet chuckle. That low laugh struck him like ice water to the face. A cold, crushing wave that left him paralyzed. "Jack, you should know better than to keep a girl waiting. If you don't coax her in time, someone else will steal her away." Jack's grip on his phone tightened so hard his knuckles turned white. His name left Jack's lips like a curse. "Cameron, it's me. Where's Carolina? Let me talk to her." Jack's entire body was rigid, his eyes bloodshot. His voice trembled with rage. "Cameron, if you dare take advantage of her, she can't come to the phone right now." Cameron lowered his head, pressing a soft kiss to the girl in his arms. Carolina's lashes were still wet with tears. Her lips were slightly pouted, her expression filled with unconscious grievance. His heart softened into a helpless ache. He kissed the teardrop from her lashes. "She's still asleep. She was mad at me." His voice was tender as he brushed his lips against hers. "I need to kiss her awake first." "Cameron." Jack's voice cut off abruptly. Cameron hung up. Then, without hesitation, he turned off his phone. His lips found Carolina's again, pressing against their swollen softness. "Wake up, baby." Chapter 10. I had thought about what it would be like to see Jack again. He came from a privileged background and carried himself with pride. Our breakup had been peaceful, and I had assumed that if we ever ran into each other again, he would either ignore me or give me a polite nod, a casual greeting. After all, my family was still in Beijing. We had mutual friends. It was impossible to avoid him forever, but I never expected that the once arrogant, untouchable Jack would one day stand before me looking so utterly defeated. And I rested, content, and in a particularly good mood, was wearing a new blush pink cashmere dress. I had done my makeup beautifully, and my entire being radiated a soft glow. Like a ripe, sweet peach, I was walking out of the revolving doors, my arm tucked around Cameron's, laughing at something he said. When I saw Jack step out of his car, I froze. My steps halted. Cameron's fingers, warm and steady, gently tightened around mine. Jack's shirt was slightly wrinkled, his tie missing. His face was shadowed with exhaustion, his brows furrowed, his bloodshot eyes betraying his sleepless nights. Around us, people came and went. Not far away, the music fountain played an upbeat tune. For a moment, it felt like a slow-motion scene from a movie. Only this time, I wasn't just a spectator. I was one of the leads, caught off guard. Perhaps it was Jack's disheveled appearance that startled me most. Cameron instinctively positioned himself slightly in front of me, shielding me, but Jack's expression remained calm. He called my name, just like he used to when we were in love. "Caro." I stood still. The music from the fountain continued to play joyfully, but for some reason, an inexplicable sadness crept into my heart. Maybe I was mourning the Carolina who had once overheard words that shattered her. Maybe I was grieving for the Carolina who had been dismissed from a relationship without warning. Or maybe I was simply saying goodbye to the Carolina who had foolishly loved for 7 years, only to need just 7 days to finally let go. Jack took a step forward, stopping about a meter away from me. Caro, I came to take you home, back to Beijing. He never once acknowledged Cameron's presence. His eyes stayed on mine, filled with a rare tenderness. I couldn't even remember the last time he had looked at me like that before we broke up. Then, he spoke with a seriousness that made me nearly believe, for a fleeting moment, that everything I had experienced had just been a bad dream. Caro, let's get married. From now on, we'll live well together, okay? But it was too late. Jack, a shattered heart cannot be pieced back together, and the new heart that had grown in its place had already made room for someone else. I shook my head. Jack, go home. His voice turned urgent. Caro, I never touched Anna. I broke up with her in less than 3 days. The wedding dress you bought, I had it restored. Our rings, I still have them. Caro, I even had a diamond ring custom made. I mean it this time. Jack's eyes turned red, his voice trembling as he held out a small, exquisite ring box, like a child offering a precious treasure. His expression was raw, desperate, and I couldn't deny that seeing him like this made me ache. Just a little, but that was all. Just a little. I tightened my grip on Cameron's hand and stepped forward to stand beside him. Jack, I already have a boyfriend. The color drained from Jack's face instantly. His gaze slowly dropped and landed on our intertwined fingers, on the matching rings we wore on our middle fingers, just like the ones he and I had once worn. Caro, are you serious? I took a deep breath. I turned to look at Cameron, and then I nodded firmly. Yes, I'm serious. Jack suddenly let out a low chuckle. And you think he is? I frowned slightly. You think Cameron is serious about you? His voice was laced with mockery, yet there was something almost manic beneath it. 2 years ago, he and I fought over a major project. He was ruthless, and now he's pursuing you. Carolina, do you really think there's no ulterior motive? Jack's smirk deepened. Can he swear, right here and now, that there's not even a trace of wanting to beat me in this? Carolina, you're still so naive. All men are the same. His eyes darkened further. We were together for 7 years. You think Cameron won't care about your past? You really believe that you and him will make it? That he'll stay by your side forever? Aren't you afraid? Afraid that in the end, you'll just go through another 7 years, just like with me? Chapter 11. At some point, the cheerful music had stopped. Jack's voice had stopped too. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, a faint, almost imperceptible sound, something breaking, and with it, came an overwhelming sense of lightness, relief. You see, even the last traces of sadness were gone. But what a pity! Why must life always leave us with regrets? Until today, I had never regretted loving Jack. Good or bad, it had been a part of my life, my experience. But in this moment, I regretted it deeply. 7 years, and I had never truly seen it. Jack had never, not even once, seen me as his equal. Cameron pulled me into his embrace, his eyes filled with worry. I must have looked pale, but I still smiled and shook my head. I'm okay, Cameron. He stroked my hair gently. Be good. Go wait in the car. I'll handle this. No, I gripped his hand, refusing to let go. I want to stay with you. Cameron studied me for a long moment, then suddenly bent down and kissed me hard. His voice was low but firm. Caro, Cameron, have lived my life with no regrets. But if there's one thing I do regret, it's that I didn't take you from him sooner. Jack let out a cold laugh. And what right did you have to take her? Cameron, you think you're any better? You swooped in when she was vulnerable. What kind of man does that make you? Cameron's expression turned icy. Jack, you never deserved Carolina's love. Maybe it was that sentence that finally pushed Jack over the edge. He completely lost control. And what about you, Cameron? Jack spat, his face contorted with fury. "You're with a woman who was mine for 7 years. What gives you the right to act high and mighty? Do you love Carolina? Or do you just love the idea of taking Jack Fu's woman?" Cameron didn't give him a chance to say another word. His fist slammed into Jack's face. Jack, never one to back down from a fight, retaliated immediately. The two of them threw punches back and forth, neither willing to step down. Within seconds, their faces were bruised and bloodied. Security rushed in, struggling to separate them. Even after being pulled apart, both men glared at each other, chests heaving, eyes burning with rage. "Can you stop already?" My voice trembled with frustration and anger. Jack wiped the blood from his mouth, his expression dark. "Carolina, you saw it yourself." He threw the first punch. "I'm not letting this go." I took a deep breath and turned to the security guard. "It was Cameron's fault. I'll have him apologize to Mr. Fu." Cameron's head snapped toward me, his eyes blazing. "Caro, he was the one who—" I placed a hand on his arm, silencing him. Then, I turned back to Jack and spoke with perfect calm. "Mr. Fu, I apologize on Cameron's behalf." Jack took a step forward, his expression unreadable. "You're really going to stand by him like this?" "He hit me first, Carolina." I met his gaze without flinching. "Then how would you like to settle this?" Jack's lips curled into a bitter smirk. "Carolina, I'm hurt." He pointed to his face. "Look, it really hurts." I glanced at his injury and nodded. "I'll call an ambulance for you. We'll cover all the medical costs." Jack's expression cracked. "Carolina, you know that's not what I want." He reached for my wrist, but I stepped away before he could touch me. His entire facade shattered in an instant. The way he looked at me, like he was mourning something irreplaceable. But in my heart, there was nothing left to mourn. Behind me, Cameron suddenly hissed in pain. "Caro, am I going to be disfigured?" I turned quickly. His lip was split, one eye was swollen, and there was blood smeared along his jaw. He looked, honestly, a mess. I grabbed some tissues and began dabbing at his face. "Ow. Caro, be gentle, that hurts." Cameron exaggerated his pain, wincing dramatically. "Serves you right." I scolded lightly, but my hands softened as I cleaned his wounds. "You need stitches. Then come with me." "I hate needles." I narrowed my eyes at him. He grinned, despite the pain. I sighed, then nodded. Cameron immediately pulled me into his arms. "And one more thing." "What now?" "Kiss it better." He tapped the corner of his mouth. I rolled my eyes. But after a moment, I rose on my tiptoes and pressed a soft kiss against his bruised lip. Chapter 12. Jack didn't say another word. The setting sun stretched his shadow long and thin. Maybe it was in that moment when he saw me carefully wiping the blood from Cameron's face. Or maybe it was when he watched me kiss Cameron, coaxing him like a spoiled child. That was when he finally realized I truly didn't love him anymore. Abigail's words that night had become a reality. I would never go back to him. Jack had always believed that he was the one who could let go easily. That he had always been in control of this relationship. That he held all the power. But in this moment, he finally understood. The one who couldn't let go was him. I had been the string holding the kite. Now that the string was cut, the kite had lost its direction. It would never come home again. I watched as Jack turned and walked back toward his car, his lonely figure disappearing into the fading light. The sun dipped below the horizon, swallowed by the earth. The sky turned into a soft, dusky rose. Jack's car drove away, and I felt as if I could see my 7 years with him, from 17 to 24, fading into the distance, like that car, roaring away until it was completely out of sight. From this day on, Jack was just another ordinary name in the world. I wouldn't force myself to forget, but I would never, ever choose to remember. "Caro." Cameron gently pulled me into his embrace. I turned back to look at him, smiling softly. "Let's go. We have a hospital to visit." The night Cameron proposed, he drank a lot. He held me in his arms, murmuring so many things. But the only words I truly remembered were these. "Carolina, we will never have a 7-year story like that. Carolina, we will never break up." Everyone who makes a promise believes it at the moment they say it. And later, when they break it, they wonder why anyone ever believed in such things. But I wanted to believe Cameron, because to believe in him was to believe in myself, to believe that I deserved love, that one day, just once, love wouldn't betray me. The day Cameron and I got engaged, I received a package from Beijing. Inside was the wedding dress I had once bought for myself. Jack had it restored. There was also a card. His handwriting was as familiar as ever. Caro, I will always wait for you. Cameron stood beside me, glancing at the card before scoffing. He kissed me firmly on the cheek. Too bad for him. He'll never get the chance. That night, the wedding dress mysteriously disappeared. But I no longer cared about such insignificant things. 3 years after Cameron and I got married, we had our daughter, Melissa. Shortly after she was born, Jack sent over an extravagant number of gifts. I asked Cameron what he thought. As always, he was confident, yet also comically petty. Our daughter doesn't need his things. Donate them to the orphanage. He clicked his tongue. TSK. Look at him. Old enough to settle down but still single, spending his days watching another man's wife and child. Is he a masochist? I couldn't help but smile. Why do you care about his business? For some reason, Cameron suddenly looked delighted. In front of an entire room of maids and staff, he lifted me up and spun me around. Caro, that sounded so good. Say it again. Say what? Put me down first. I'm getting dizzy. But he didn't let go. Instead, he sat down, pulling me onto his lap, pressing kisses all over my face. That sentence just now, the part about not caring about other people's business. I laughed, but deep down, a trace of heartache surfaced. A friend had once told me that during the 2 years after I graduated college, Cameron had been at his lowest. But after we got together, he never once mentioned it. Not once did he show me even a glimpse of negativity. He never let me see that side of him. So I leaned in, wrapping my arms around his neck. I kissed his ear lightly, then whispered, "Let's not care about others. What matters most is that we live well." Cameron's arms tightened around me, and then, just before I could pull away, I added, my voice barely above a breath, "Husband, Melissa is 2 months old now. Let's go to bed early tonight." Chapter 13. Jack's epilogue. When Carolina's daughter turned 3, their family of 3 returned to Beijing for a few months to visit her relatives. We had many mutual friends, and their gatherings were frequent. Of course, I never attended, but after every gathering, I couldn't stop myself from asking about her. They told me that after getting married, Carolina had gone to Paris to study for 2 years. During those 2 years, Cameron tirelessly traveled back and forth between Hong Kong and Paris, never once complaining. Later, Carolina returned to Hong Kong and started her own magazine, taking on the role of editor-in-chief. Cameron supported her unconditionally in everything, except for her habit of working late too often. She could have lived as a pampered socialite, but she chose not to. She was becoming more beautiful, but she was no longer just about beauty. Her love with Cameron grew deeper, and their daughter, she was breathtakingly pretty, a mirror image of Carolina as a child. She never knew this, but I still kept a photo of her from when she was 5 in my wallet. Beijing was vast, yet our circles were small, and yet, not once did I run into Carolina, until one afternoon, by chance, at a buffet restaurant, I saw their daughter, Melissa. She was hiding behind a rockery, sneaking bites of ice cream, like a tiny squirrel. Her little cheeks were puffed up with sweet indulgence. My footsteps stalled, my body freezing in place. I just stood there, unable to look away. A moment later, I heard Carolina calling her name. Melissa's eyes widened in panic, clutching her ice cream container, unsure of what to do. Without thinking, I stepped forward, crouching down beside her. "Are you scared that your mommy will catch you eating ice cream?" She nodded, her big eyes darting around, full of clever mischief. "Do you want me to help you hide?" She hesitated, studying me carefully. Then, as if deciding that I wasn't a bad person, she nodded again. I lifted her into my arms. She was so small, soft, and warm, clinging to my chest. Her tiny hands played with the buttons of my suit. Then, in a soft, milky voice, she asked, "Mister, do you know me?" My throat tightened. A bitter, choking sensation filled my chest. The scene before me blurred. If I could turn back time, back to that year, that night, I would never let it happen. Carolina would have been my wife. We would have married in Beijing, had children together. And Melissa, she wouldn't be named Melissa. She would have been our daughter. I lifted my head slightly, forcing back the moisture in my eyes. Then, looking down at her, I smiled. "Of course. Uncle knows you." Her little hands wrapped around my neck as she whispered in my ear. "Then do you know my name?" She giggled. "I'll tell you a secret. My name is Melissa." She leaned in closer, her voice even softer. Daddy Cameron and Mommy Carolina kissed. And then I was born. I chuckled. "Is that so? That's a wonderful name." I kissed her soft cheek gently. "All right. We can't hide for too long, or your mommy will worry." She nodded obediently. "Okay. But can I take just one more bite of ice cream? Just one." Then, with exaggerated glee, she scooped a big spoonful into her mouth, grinning up at me like a mischievous kitten. I ruffled her hair. "Go find your mommy now." I watched as she ran off. Her tiny princess dress fluttered like a blooming flower, spreading open in Carolina's arms. I didn't look at Carolina again. I was afraid that if I did, in the middle of this crowded restaurant, I might do something absurd, like shed tears. Carolina no longer cared about anything related to me. And Cameron, he would surely find this whole thing laughable. Yes, my first half of life had been ridiculous, and the rest of it, even that ridiculousness had become nothing more than a distant dream.